Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So, look what came in the mail today. I mean, it's early. It's a day early. That like never happens. Like, okay, it's happened like one other time in the history of me getting this comic book, directly from Marvel. But hey, I will take it. Usually it's like a month or 5 weeks late, somewhere in there, so I will take it. So I like the cover. It's pretty, you know, says what the issue is going to be about. Or at least what happens in the issue, which sometimes covers, especially now, don't have anything to do with the what's on the inside. I've fallen for that. I've bought quite a few variant covers just because I liked the way that they looked, which, I need to stop doing that because I'm running out of space. Um, let's see. So we come in on the warden talking to Monet St. Croix, which I think that's how you pronounce her name. Her name is spelled exactly like the French Impressionist painter, so I'm assuming that that's how you pronounce it. But you know me and pronunciations, I am never 100% sure. So she's the warden saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't meet you earlier. I wanted to introduce myself and I wanted, you know, are you hungry?" And she's like, no, I'm not going to eat that food. And she's like, the warden says, I especially make this food or have this food made so that my prisoners remain compliant. And Monet is like, you mean docile, right? But anyway, the warden goes on to say that usually everyone loses like 6 to 8 ounces in a week on this food, and she's gained 3 pounds. And Monet's like, rude. Like, even though apparently she hasn't eaten since she's been there, since she, was kidnapped and forced to be there. So, it's just this exchange between the two of them. And she basically, she tries to, make nice with her, giving her coffee and croissants. But yeah, Monet is like, yeah, I've heard about you. You actually like want to be like us. You want to be a powerful like female mutant, you know. And so she lists Jean Grey, Anna Marie Laveau, I mean Rogue. It's so hard for me to call her Anna Marie because for all like I've been, ever since I discovered the X-Men anime series and read all the comic books, it's not till more recently she's been Rogue. So to me, she's always or been Anna Marie. So to me, she's always been Rogue and she always will be Rogue. And like when I first think of her, I will say Rogue instead of Anna Marie. It just, you know, second nature to say Rogue. Let's see. Just like with Wolverine, most people call him Wolverine. They don't call him Logan, even though he's been Logan for quite a while, but they still call him Wolverine instead of Logan. So anyway, Emma Frost, especially right down to her style, and the warden's like, "Who told you that? That's a lie." And she's like, "Yeah, someone, told me that." And she's like, "It was your brother, Oscar. He told me, to look out for you." And basically she's like, I'm done with this though. I want you to warn you though. You should get used to prison food because it looks like your operation's, falling down on itself. She's like, I know scurvy, your, pet mutant mind controlling machine, basically, is going downhill, and I hear bumps in the night. It looks like inmate X is awakening, which I still don't know who inmate X is. Obviously, it's a super powerful mutant. We know who it's not because of who's in X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. But they're doing this whole Age of Apocalypse thing. I mean, could it be, could Age of Apocalypse nod to, where the crossover? So could it be like Legion? Could it be like, you know, X-Men? I mean, those are my guesses. I don't know. I don't know when we're gonna find out. And anyway, but she takes the collar, like tears it off, this power dampening collar. So I mean, that should tell you something. that she's super powerful. She's kind of like reminds me of Superman in a way. She has flight, super strength, durability. She has a healing factor, telekinesis. Well, Superman doesn't really have that, but you know what I mean. And she has also her penance form where she's has razor sharp claws and diamond hard skin. So she's a really cool character. Like I remember reading about her or reading her in Generation X, and I just really like that whole mystery and saga was pretty cool. Like at the time that it was happening, because of course we had no idea what was going on. Yeah, so that tells me that there's something else keeping her there though, because it seems like she could leave basically whenever she wanted to. So anyway, um, yeah, I don't know. I probably won't wear this dress again. It's annoying because it won't stay up. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to stay up, but it's not. It won't stay up. So, that in itself is pretty annoying. So I probably won't wear this one again. And so it's interesting because I never really thought about this because Rogue is talking about how this food makes her think of home. Like and jalapeno cornbread, empanadas, let's see, cinnamon bread for Death Dream, sausage and grits. You know, she said this food makes her feel like home. She said the professor always had like chefs and like fancy food, and it just felt, like you were kind of walking around on eggshells, had to be on your best behavior. To me, I guess I've never thought about like Professor Xavier hiring staff or having staff. I mean, granted, he's rich enough, but at the same time, like considering the school was supposed to be a secret, I feel like how could he hire people and make sure his secret stayed a secret? I don't know. So I never thought of him hiring people like or having help. Maybe they'd have to sign a NDA or something, but still, I feel like if you and the thing is, like Xavier, like I said, that's so annoying. Xavier, he, you know, especially at points in his life, he did not want to use his powers to be intrusive. So he wouldn't have like scanned their mind to make sure that they weren't, like a mutant hating whatever. So I don't know. I don't see him as having staff. I never thought about it, I guess, but you know, I just assumed everyone picked up after themselves because that's what normal people do, and everyone like cooked for themselves, or they took turns cooking, doing the dishes, sort of thing, like sort of like they're doing at Haven House. They take turns doing chores and stuff. So I don't know. I guess, like I said, never thought about it because, like I said, it's supposed to be a secret school, so I wouldn't think that they would have people, but maybe they did. I don't know. So Rogue just says, Nightcrawler seems really happy, Jubilee seems happy, even Wolverine's more relaxed here. And she pulls Jitter aside and Kurt, and she just says, to Jitter, um, I understand. I've kind of been in your shoes. People have made fun of me for the way I talk. That's why I went to a speech therapist. But at the same time, it's your decision. I'm just letting you know it's there if you want to go. Because Jitter has the stutter. And then she said, my friend Spider-Man made these for you. And I'm like, well, what is it? I would assume they're upgrades for like her, her bracelet that she wears that kind of tells her that, it's been a minute or something. But yeah, they don't really say. I want to know. I think it's fun that Rogue says, my friend Spider-Man. So yeah. And then we come across this word of strength compound, which is basically looks like a cult. And they say later in the issue, it is basically a cult. It's an all male cult focused on being like, I guess, the strongest and most, you know, masculine. I don't know. But definitely the strongest and the best fighter and all that stuff because this guy um, calls. Well, we don't know who he calls. We find out later. He calls and says, I'm in trouble. I don't know I didn't know who to reach out to. I don't have anyone else to reach out to, basically. And so you see um their, the head leader, I would assume, is like, "Are you ready?" And he reluctantly is like, "Yes," because you can tell he doesn't want to do this, but it seems like he has no choice. So we have everyone going off to school, and Death Dream is like to, waffles. Be good, be good waffles. Don't kill anybody. And then he has this bone in his mouth, and he's like, it's a tibia, and um, Death Dream's like, "Where'd you get that? Go put that back." And then he's like, "Good." Like, I think he says, yeah, undead half sentinel doggy. I mean, like I said, I love waffles. I love that they have waffles and the kitties, there with them. So Ransom, he's not going to school. He plays them the phone call that that boy, had made. Basically, he called him and he's like, "This is my half brother." And he's like, "I don't know what to do." He's a little bit conflicted because he's like, "My family, I don't care about them because they never cared about me. They abandoned me. So like, why should I care about them?" That sort of thing. And so then in, in addition to seeing the boy who called him, I think his name's like, well, I don't even want to try to pronounce his name because I know I'll get it wrong. But anyway, we see him going through this trial, like he's having to fight another, probably initiate. This is probably part of their initiation. I'm surprised that with this initiation and with this cult and it's like word of strength, that's the whole thing, is that they didn't have like a whole fight to the death thing. I mean, instead they just like incapacitated them or something. Not even that, because he's not even knocked out. I don't know. I mean, that's good though, because I'd be, dumb for them to kill all their initiates or half of them anyway. So Gambit is, basically Ransom is like, "You guys don't know how it is. You guys don't know my family. You've had like these perfect families. You're telling Gambit you married the um hottest thing on earth." And wasn't your dad like a king of something, like king of thieves? That sort of, and that reminds me of like that Aladdin movie. I think it was Aladdin 3, where his dad was supposedly like the king of thieves or something. Am I just making that up? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like there was such a movie though, but like I said, maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, this is so annoying. I I don't understand. I don't know if the elastic is broken or what's going on. I might have to see if I can like pin it or something. Anyway, sorry. I'm gonna try not to let it bother me because we're already halfway through this video. So, Wolverine's like, "Hey, you don't know what Gambit has been through in his life," which is true. He doesn't, because there's been a lot of stuff about that Gambit's been through that has gone on that he has no idea about. Um, and Wolverine's like, we're just trying to help. Like we basically we care in his own Wolverine way. He's saying we care about you and we just want to be there for you. We just want to help. And Gambit is like, you can be a mutant or you can walk the mutant road, which I think he's trying to say, you can be a mutant. Everyone thinks you can walk the mutant road as in right above what people think you are. So Wolverine's like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna go get this kid because, he obviously this kid is still in trouble and still needs someone to help him." So Wolverine's like, I guess I'm volunteering in a way. And he's telling Ransom, "You don't have to come. Like, I understand if you don't want to come." And he's like, "No, I I need to go. An old guy like you probably get lost, so I should just come with you." And Death Dream's like, "I'm going to." And Ransom's like, "You can't come this time. You need to stay here and look after everyone." And oh, I mean, it's so sad because Ransom or like hurt Death Dream's feelings because he's like, feelings suck. because he's like, he said I was his little brother. Like, basically, like I said, his feelings are hurt. And Rogue's like, do you need me to go along and chaperone you guys? And they're like, no, it's an all male, cult. I'm pretty sure you'll be noticed. And Gambit's like, I notice her every day. What does he say? I notice her myself on the regular. That's funny. So he's using the eye again, the eye of Agamotto that, the Ice Drake dragon has warned him about using, that he shouldn't be using it, and yet he continues to use it. So I'm worried about the consequences of that. I'm worried about what's gonna happen. So he transports them all the way to Argentina, and they end up in the middle of the road and almost get squished by a semi truck. Like I said, it's so annoying. And it's only one shoulder too. Like I don't understand. Oh no, I lied. That one went too. Anyway, super annoying. Um, so Ransom's like, I don't know exactly where the compound is. I know it's around here somewhere though. So, and they go to this bar where a lot of the initiates, a lot of the members hang out. And he lets them know, like, hey, Wolverine, these guys are enhanced, like messy enhanced. So I'm thinking, they have powers and they like juiced them up with chemicals or something like that. And he said also they're super aggressive and they call it going juggernaut, which I don't know. I feel like juggernaut to hear that would be flattered. Flattered that all the way over in this foreign country that he's, that well known, so to speak. Um, yeah. So Ransom tries to get a drink and Wolverine's like, yeah, you're not old enough to drink. And this guy comes up to Wolverine, which, like, okay, he says, hey, to Rogue, hey, you'll be super noticed because you're a girl, which I get that because it's a male compound. But then he goes there in his, uniform, his costume, which is bright yellow, and I feel like that would get a lot of attention too, which I guess they're not worried about them getting attention. Like I said, I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. But it's Wolverine. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he's up for a fight whenever. So this guy approaches Wolverine and said, hey, oh, you're American. It's tradition for Americans to buy around. And Wolverine's like, it's a good thing I'm Canadian then. And he's like, piss off. And the other guy is like, well, I heard Canadians were, friendly. You should have bought the round. You're gonna wish you had. And Wolverine to Ransom is like, you see how this is going? And Ransom's like, yep. And so the fight ensues. And we have Ransom, and this is his inner dialogue. And he's just talking about how being here, being back home, brings back all these, horrible feelings. Like he hasn't told anyone this, but he has this secret where he feels like, I want to say depressed a lot. Like he has these thoughts where, he just he describes it as an eclipse. Um I get sad sometimes, so sad I can't see the light, like an eclipse. Sometimes it's partial, sometimes it's total. And I don't know how to ask for help. Which, oh man, like the first time I read that, that hit pretty hard because I've been there. I know a lot of us have been there. Um, he described it really well. I've never heard it like Gail described it really well. I've never heard it described like that. For me, it's kind of like I think of it as like this fog, like this dense fog that's surrounding you. And sometimes you can see a little bit of the light, but you can't see well enough to get through the fog because it's still there, it's still lingering. And then sometimes all the light just disappears and you have no idea where you are, just standing in the middle of this fog. I mean, like I said, I know a lot of us have struggled with that. like for sure have. I will say mostly in high school, and I high school is tough. It is tough for like it's just a tough age, and it's and I hate to say it, but kids can be so cruel and so mean. And I mean, adults can too, obviously, but it seems like in high school, it's so much worse. And you, being young and being a kid and going through all these changes and all your hormones changing and everything, you just feel like lost a lot of the time. And that's why there's so many, I feel like so many movies about that sort of thing. Like, how hard it is in high school because it is. But anyway, like I've never heard depression described like that, and it fits. Like it fits. Yeah, and it is really hard to ask for help because you feel like you don't want to be a burden to anyone, and you also feel like you don't know anyone well enough to ask for help, or you feel like for me it was mostly I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want people to see me differently, to know that like I guess that's super annoying to know that I needed that help. And I did get end up getting help, thankfully. You know, I talked to someone, I talked to a therapist, and I went on medication, and that seemed to really help a lot. So, but I still have those moments, like a lot of us, where you just feel in that space, that headspace, and you're not quite sure how to get out of it, and you feel like you're stuck there. And so honestly, I applaud Gail for like touching on this super touchy subject. And like I said, I've never heard it described like that, but it's a really good analogy for how it feels. And he goes on to say, and sometimes I feel like the black hole inside of me is pulling every bit of weight around me and making me carry it, like Atlas forever. Because Atlas was charged to hold up the sky. That was his punishment. Um, and some days I want that sadness to end so bad that I just want to put the weight down forever. And he's talking about, of course, suicide, which again, super touchy subject. And it's something that needs to be talked about. It's like I said, it's really hard to ask for help sometimes. And sometimes, for me, like I feel like the best thing that someone could have done for me is just listen. Just, be there for me and listen. And but yeah, it was hard. It was hard to ask for help. It was hard to get help finally. And it's not easy to talk about, honestly. I mean, I feel like I'm getting emotional just talking about it right now. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that Gail is touching on this subject. I mean, honestly, because this is an important thing to talk about, it's especially hard nowadays with cell phones. Everyone has cell phones, and like people are so mean on the internet, and they can capture your worst moments and share them with everybody, which you know sucks. I mean, that's definitely like this moment in time that just something happened, either something embarrassing or something just not good happened, and it lives on forever because of the internet. I mean, what a nightmare, honestly. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get all like super serious, but this is a super serious issue. So like I said, I apologize for kind of going off track there and everything. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on it because it is such a serious issue, and because, like I said, Gail, I feel like explained it pretty well here. And that is a good analogy, and I have not heard that analogy before. So anyway, he goes on to say that, being home especially triggers those feelings because when he was 10, he was kidnapped and held for ransom, and his parents refused to pay the ransom. They're like, nope, we're not paying it. I mean, his parents are wealthy. They could have afforded to pay the ransom, but they're like, nope, we're not going to. I feel like part of it, I mean, I feel like because his parents knew he was a mutant, like he doesn't have a heart. So I feel like they would know that at some point that he was a mutant. And so it wasn't even the money, he said, it was the fact that he was a mutant, that his parents just refused to pay the ransom. They thought, well, and that's why kind of why he named himself Ransom. And that's yeah, I mean, pretty telling. And he said his parents were ashamed of him, and so rather than pay the ransom, they're just like, nope, never mind. And he ended up getting shot, like killed, but of course, because of his mutant power, he didn't die. So they're in this fight with all these guys while he's talking about this, and Ransom's like, you guys must not know who we are. Like, there's 20 of you, but two of us, but we're the X-Men. And he's like, it feels really good to say that. It feels like it fits. It feels he's like, kind of thinking it feels like I belong. And then all of a sudden there's a gunshot. And he says, stop this at once. I will shoot you both. I told you to never come back here again. And Wolverine's like, who's that? And Ransom's like, that's my dad. So you're like, oh, well, that sucks. That's definitely more drama. But the next issue sounds really fun because they are at a comic book convention in Argentina, which, like I said, or like I just talked about in Dazzler 30, or was it 31? No, it was definitely 31. But anyway, or it was definitely 30. I'm sorry, I haven't done 31 yet. But she just went to the San Diego Comic Con. So I thought that was pretty cool that and now we're having another Comic Con, and you can see there's someone dressed as Rogue, there's someone dressed as Gambit, um, Doctor Doom, Captain America, Juggernaut, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, um, like all kinds of characters, Loki, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Power Fist, or Power Fist, Power Man, and Iron Fist. Oh, wow. Okay. Thor. Anyway, so yeah, it's so cool that they're bringing that culture into comic books. And like I said, right after the Dazzler 30 that I just revisited, and where she goes to a comic book convention. So I'm really looking forward to this next issue. I think that'll be fun. Like I said, see all the Easter eggs, all the different characters that people dress up as. And they're saying this because, they're at a comic book convention, but they're not sure. Let's see, how do they find and eliminate their target in a sea of masked cosplayers? And what if some of the cosplayers are the actual villains they're portraying? It's carnage for the two toughest spiders on the squad. So anyway, I'm sorry I got off track talking about, mental health, and I said, I apologize, but I feel like it needs to be talked about. And I really like that Gail addressed it in this issue. I mean, I really like how she explained it too. Oh, so annoying. Anyway, like I said, won't be wearing this dress again. Like I said, I don't understand. It must be like I just bought it, but it must be the elastic that just, or maybe it's because I'm short and it's meant for someone taller, and so it should come up here. And anyway, whatever it is, I won't be wearing it again. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, I was super excited to get it, a day early. That rarely ever, almost never happens. Oh yeah, and I just, noticed when he was talking about it feels like an eclipse, he has that symbol on his costume. I forgot about that. Um, Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will join me in the future for more videos. Until then, bye.